Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday evening, February 2nd, 2026. It is 7 p.m., and this is a regular meeting of the Gorham Planning Board. Would you please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please silence your cell phones? Thank you. Mrs. Einman, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Hager.
Here.
Mr. Benson. Ms. Nichols. Mr. Frank.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. Delaney.
Here.
Mr. Crisafulli.
Here.
Thank you. We have a forum. Thank you. Quorum. Gentlemen, in your packet, we have approval of the minutes from the January 5th, 2026 Planning Board meeting. Our secretary, Ms. Nichols, is not here. Has anyone had a chance to review it? Do they have any questions or comments? Please, Mr. Frank.
I have reviewed it, and I find no errors or anything needs to be updated or deleted.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Is there anyone else? I might have had a different version, perhaps, than Mr. Frank. No disrespect. On page 7, please. Page 7, third paragraph from the bottom, the last sentence. It says, she concluded that a master sign plan, I believe that's site, should be site plan? Okay. I'll stand corrected. It was mentioning you. There was a discussion about whether
because the term site plan appears earlier in the same paragraph.
Yep.
They do actually need a master sign plan, so it could be correct.
It could be, but is it? You mentioned previously, as Mr. Frank pointed out in the second sentence, she outlined the requirements for the site plan, including utilities, land is by blah, blah, blah.
No, it is correct. It was an addition. Maybe we add the word also somewhere in there?
She also concluded that a master sign plan, so sign, the word sign is correct?
In between the word will and need, will also need.
So need to be submitted.
All righty, I'm happy with that, if you are. Anyone else? Is there a motion, please? Mr. Walsh?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the Planning Board meeting minutes of January 5th, 2026 as written.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second, please?
Mr. Frank.
Mr. Frank, thank you, Mr. Frank. Any other questions or edits? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Mr. Crisafulli, you
I wasn't there for that meeting.
Okay.
Abstention?
Abstaining. Moving along, here we go. Reports. Chairman, the auditorium's not too full. Maybe it's a warming place for some people tonight. It's usual. Well, thank you for coming anyways. I have nothing else. I apologize. Nothing else. Committee reports. Ordinance Review Committee, Mr. Walsh.
The committee has not met since the last time we met.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Frank, Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee.
We have also not met.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Administrative Review, looking to my right.
We have not received any items for administrative review.
Wow. Thank you very much. Moving along, public hearings. Item number 1, public hearing subdivision and site plan review, Roby Street subdivision, phases 1M to 4. Review a plan for development of phases 1M-4 of a proposed development on 131 plus or minus acres of land behind Village Elementary School, zone contract zone and urban residential expansion. Map 25, Lot 8, Map 24, Lot 20, Map 27, Lot 20, and Map 24, Lot 19. The applicant is represented by Dan Riley, PE of Sebago Techniques. I look to planning to please introduce this.
Some of the project highlights, other than what you've already described. 44 units have been previously approved. 521 are proposed in the next phases. It is a Contract zone, as is described in here, with a minimum lot size of 8,500 square feet, and the multifamilies at 20,000 square feet. There are some different modifications to the zoning through that contract zone, setbacks and parking ratios. It requires a street connection through to White Birch Lane, just as a review, trail access, and recreation connections. Also, one or more buildings have to be age-restricted within that. There's an open space requirement. The requirement is for at least 13 acres, actually 13.11 acres to be specific, with the original calculation. And later on, we'll ask for a new calculation just to double check, because there's been some land swap, and we want to make sure that all of the calculations would be correct. So 13.11 is or should be required based on the past estimate. 51 acres has been provided. That acreage has been turned over to the Presumpscot Land Trust in a recent deed that was submitted with this application, which provides the proof. Besides that, the development is also in an overlay district for development transfer, and it allows up to 331 bonus units. So that's in and above the base zoning, and what they're doing is they are buying up to allow for that increased number of units. And then again, we need a calculation based on some of the land swaps. We might need a tweak or at least an explanation of where they're at with that calculation. Outstanding items that need to be provided, they need a traffic movement permit. We're in the middle of scheduling the meeting to discuss traffic and what all they may need to do underneath that permit or with that permit. They will need a site law permit and a stormwater permit, which is a SLOTA permit, as we normally call it. Army Corps permit, they will need to submit ability to serve letter from the Water and Sewer District for both water and sewer, and they need the financial capacity documentation submitted. Normally that's from a bank, but we'll see what they submit. Some of the plans that we still need, or there might be some missing information, is the landscape plan, the peer review landscape architect has asked for full species list, buffers, and the quantities of all of those things based on what we have in our ordinance and professional recommendations. The lighting photometric plan, updated net density calculations based on the current land swaps, as I mentioned earlier. Parking and ADA breakdown, because there's a little bit of a difference between what the contract zone allows and some of the overlay zoning and whatnot. And the chart that was submitted was not necessarily a matchup entirely understandable by the planning reviewers. So we'd ask for maybe a little more clarification. Stormwater corrections, that was identified by the peer reviewer, Wright Pierce. Sidewalk and pedestrian network, there's some incomplete network connections in and around the multifamily area. Let's see. Then there's some legal questions that were brought up by the peer review legal review. So one of them is the Moody land swap, and how does that affect land that is or is not in the contract zone? How does that affect the number of units that are associated with the contract zone? The homeowners association documents, they have stated that there is provision for the entire the entirety of all units, every phase. The legal counsel has asked to review the entire thing, so we would need a copy of that for the review. Let's see, then there is the White Birch Lane access. So there are what we have described as 4 different segments to White Birch Lane. The segment that was original, where the original homes have been for decades, that is the first segment. There's 2 and 3 segments in between, and then there is the brand-new road connection that they've made on their own property. So the second and third segment have some gaps in the history, the deed history. So we need to know exactly what the right-of-way ownership is or was. What's the status of the dedication? When we get to public acceptance, what does that look like, or where are we at in that process? Because some of that is going over public land, it's the school property. So we have a couple of segments with questions that we just need some clarification on, where they stand, and that might need some deed research to figure it out. The development transfer overlay has a couple of requirements for lot to depth ratio. There's some lots that don't quite meet that, so we want them to take a look at those lots. We looked at something today which is required prior to preliminary plan review, which we're at right now, which is a conceptual design review. And we've been doing this for so long that we did not have an exact date of when that happened. So we did a little digging, Damon did a little digging through the minutes and records to try and find what planning board meeting they brought that date to you. Because when you look at your chart in the findings in the review memo, there's a lot of blanks in there. So that's one I wanted to fill in to make sure that they've actually done that. We are fairly certain we found the date where that was a topic of conversation, where a landscape architect came and did a review, provided a narrative about the natural resources and all the things that are on the existing lot. Then we have some engineering and infrastructure questions from Wright Pierce, some parking, stormwater, sewer, roads, which is pretty much normal findings, things here and there that need to be fixed and answered. Some fire department questions and things to be answered. Natural resources, again, they've given 51 acres deeded to the Presumpscot Regional Land Trust. There's some comments from the Conservation Commission clarifying public access, trailheads, winter access, some loop connections, the pocket park detail, and then parking for trail access along and in, and more than just what the Presumpscot Regional Land Trust is going to do. So what does that look like for the residents of the development? Are they going to cut through the multi-family phases in order to get to the public open space? What does that look like? Where are the links? Traffic and pedestrian safety, again, TMP is required, and we're in the works of doing that and scheduling that process. And with that, I turn it over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Iron. I don't think you took a breath there. Thank you. Thank you.
I was trying to go fast.
No. There's a lot of content here, a tremendous amount of content for all of us.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
before we get going, and there's a lot to go through tonight, but I just have a real higher level question before we get into it. What exactly are we trying to achieve tonight?
This is preliminary plan review for subdivision, and just review
All 4 phases?
for 4 phases,
Okay.
and site plan review for the multifamily. That's the only thing that needs to go through it, is the multifamily.
Okay, that's helpful.
And that's
All
what
right.
we're looking at.
All right, okay, thank you. Because we have approved the first phase residential that is under construction.
Yes,
44 homes, yes.
44 units.
All right, so this is for everything beyond, and this is the first time we've done the first pass on preliminary for these phases. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We've seen it in general and in passing conversation.
it's-
We know it's coming.
Yeah, just lines blur. Yes. Yeah, and by the way, we did have a sidewalk on this. You show here, no sidewalk. So.
No sidewalk.
Yeah, just a clarification on that. So there was a site walk for the first phase subdivision.
Okay.
And we had put none held for this application being for preliminary approval for
All right.
phase. It may be splitting hairs a little bit, but we can, if you think it would be clearer for the next time we see this application, we can put that site walk date, which I believe was September of 2023.
It was a traipse through the woods,
Sure,
basically.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Put that down.
So this transmittal is for this particular application, not all of the project content?
Generally speaking, yes.
Thank you, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Walsh, okay?
Yes.
I'm looking up at Mr. Dyke because he's looking at Mr. Riley. Are you guys all set with, we're just taking a brief moment here, folks.
There we go.
We okay? We're all set? Thank you, Mr. Riley.
Thank you.
Brief interview, please, or overview, and then we'll get into it. We'll have a public hearing. Thank you.
Sure. I'll try to be brief. There's a lot here. As you know, we've been here before on this project. It's been some extensive review going back to probably the early 2020s, starting with concept plans and a contract zone that was approved in 2024. And the project, as you see it now, was last before the board in 2024 for the first phase subdivision, which I'll get to in a minute, and then most recently for sketch plan review in October, where the concept plan for where we are with preliminary was presented to the board. So the project is with me tonight, KV Enterprises, Kendrick Ballantyne and Vinny Mayetta, are representing the owner here if there's any questions that I can't answer. But we are looking to review the preliminary site and subdivision plan for all the remaining phases of the Robie Street subdivision, which based on the language that was put in or the concept plans that were developed with the contract zone and through schematic design, identifies 4 phases of the project, and they're identified as 1R, 1M for phase 1 residential, phase 1 multifamily. So we've tried to keep that going through here. So that's what I'll be talking about today. So as I said, the phase 1 residential subdivision, 44 single-family lots, was approved in September 2024. That project's under construction. The majority of the roads have been constructed, and the rest of the utilities and construction will be completed likely this spring, with residential construction proceeding apace as the road construction is completed. As we talked about back in October, and Carol summarized in the memo, our approach to the permitting of this, to try to clarify for everyone, is that this application is looking for preliminary subdivision site plan approval for all of the remaining phases of the project. Following preliminary approval from the town, we would submit the DEP site location application and the applications for wetland permits for the state level permits that are required and the federal level permits that are required. We've begun the traffic permitting for a portion of what you're going to talk about today, and we'll get into a little bit more on that. When we met at sketch plan, we kind of outlined what we intended there. DOT permits have a lifespan, and so the amount of the development that you seek permits for needs to be reasonably able to be constructed within a 7-year period. Those can be modified and extended, but the way DOT has been handling their permits over the last several years, they really want to keep the the extent of the development permitted to what can be constructed in about a 7-year period. So we're going to be seeking preliminary approval for the whole project, DEP and wetland permits for the whole project, traffic permits for about half of what the preliminary approval will cover, and then we would return to you for final subdivision approval for the same scope of work that the traffic permit would cover, and then we'll return for the future phases of the phase 3 and 4 multifamily. So all the design here is very consistent with the sketch plan that you saw. It's consistent with the contract zone versus in terms of the uses and the concept. And as we talked about at sketch plan, when we look at the current plan as it's envisioned, compared to the concepts that were developed as part of the contract zone, overall, the revised plan reduces the development footprint of the project. And with that, the wetland impacts, that was a large driver. It has to do with, we've consolidated buildings compared to the contract zone. There's fewer buildings. There's reduced parking. And that's worked to reduce the wetland impacts. So the number of buildings has been consolidated. When we look at the single-family lots, they've actually been reduced compared to what the contract zone envisioned. So in the contract zone, there was going to be 101 lots were shown on a concept plan, and that's been actually reduced to 91 lots. And we'll get into that a little bit more with the plans that we'll put up on the screen. Overall, the unit count does rise because there are more multifamily units. But those units have been planned or are being planned as more smaller, 1-bedroom, studio, maybe 2-bedroom, and much fewer larger units. So the overall number of bedrooms that you would consider in the full build-out is less than what was sort of contemplated at the contract zone. And that ties into parking and traffic permitting that we'll also get into. So that's sort of in summary where we are relative to the contract zone. The phases are summarized here. I won't go through this in detail. I'll get right to where the plans are so we can talk about where the phases are. So up on the screen, hopefully you can see my pointer here. So the area along the top, it's hard to see. I don't know if you can see my pointer up at that screen. I can see it coming and going, but I'll try and describe it. So the areas along the top of the page where you see the single family lots along the top of the development and along the left side, those represent the 44 single-family lots that were approved as part of the Phase 1 subdivision. So the follow-on phases that we're talking about today are in red on the right-hand corner is what we've designated as the Phase 1M or the Phase 1 multifamily project. The blue is the Phase 2 project, and that is the single-family lots in blue, sort of in the center of the page, and 2 multifamily buildings at the sort of the west end of the residential lots. That layout's all consistent with what the concept plans that were approved as part of the contract zone, and that layout remains consistent. The green is what we've designated as the Phase 3 residential project, and that's where a few lots have been eliminated compared to the contract zone due to some wetlands sort of at the center left of that green patch. You can see there's a gap in those lots. And those lots have been eliminated to address wetland impacts that we didn't think would be permittable for single-family lots in that location. Phase 3 multifamily are 2 multifamily buildings in the center south end of the site, and the phase 4 project is 3 multifamily buildings at the southeast corner of the site. In the center, the blue shaded area in the center, surrounded by the green, is a stormwater management facility, and that'll be constructed as part of the Phase 2 project that treats runoff from essentially the blue area drains to that pond, and portions of the green and purple do, but that pond would be constructed as part of the Phase 2 project. And so that's sort of the overall, when we talk about phasing, that's the approach to the project. We're going to be starting with the Phase 1 multifamily in the red in the upper right, Phase 2 in the blue, Phase 3 in the green, Phase 3 multifamily in the purple, and the Phase 4 project down below. And again, we're going to be seeking preliminary approval for all of that from you. All of that development and all the wetland impacts would go to DEP and the Army Corps for its permitting. And then the traffic permitting, I'll come back to, we'll cover a portion of that, but I'll talk about that. One of the questions that came up was the open space, and we've tried to give you a little bit of a simplified diagram here. As Carol mentioned, it's a 130-acre site. 50 acres of open space has already been dedicated to the land trust. But as part of the application, in the comments, there was some clarification requested regarding the usable open space and the formal open space that's required by your ordinance. The ordinance requires a certain amount of overall open space acreage. The 13.1 acres is required, and there'll be a total of about 80 acres. We've already dedicated 50 of that, but about 80 acres total, much of that being wetland areas. Of the usable open space, 3.6 is required and 5.5 is shown, and that's a combination of what you see in orange and green on the plan in front of you. And then within the usable open space that's defined by the ordinance, there's a requirement for a portion of that to be formal open space, and that's areas that might have some kind of improvements, walkways, gardens, public amenity space for the public in those areas, and those are the areas that are designated in green. And I can go through that in more detail if you have questions. We did note the comments from the peer reviewers regarding landscaping some of those areas, landscaping around buildings. We understand those to be items that are generally fleshed out and shown in detail at final approval. But if we need to, we can be more explicit right now about where some of those connection points are as part of the preliminary. But suffice to say that all the areas that are formal open spaces that are and usable open spaces will be open to the public. There are connection points all along the extension of White Bridge Road that'll provide access to the land that the land trust has already accepted, and then there'll be connections within the site. It's intended that public access from the right-of-way to that open space would be available, readily available to the public and residents of the subdivision and elsewise. When we talk about permitting, so if we look at the two colored plans here, if I flip back, so our overall scheme of development, you'll see that the existing phase 1 project is not shaded on the top, and the purple and yellow are shaded on the bottom. That's the overall phasing of the project. From the traffic permitting, what's colored there is what will be permitting in this first phase of the traffic permitting. And that includes kind of working from the top. The brown colored shaded areas along the top and the left side is the phase 1 project. That project, when it was approved, didn't require a traffic movement permit, but DOT looks cumulatively, so as we add phases to it, we are required to do that. So the traffic permit application that's been submitted, and DOT is working to schedule the scoping meeting for that defines the level of study that the towns involved in that is going to address the traffic from the phase 1 development shown in brown, the phase 1 multifamily shown in red on the right-hand corner, all of the phase 2 project, including the 2 multifamily buildings and the single-family lots, and the phase 3 residential portion, the green shaded. The 2 components of the development that would come later, which would also come back to you for final later, would be the phase 3 multifamily sort of in the center middle of the project site, and the phase 4 multifamily project that's in the lower right-hand corner. Due to the expected absorption rate of units and the restrictions that are in the contract zone about the pace of development and the phasing of it, it wasn't practicable to try to permit the traffic for those 2 remaining phases until we were closer to when they could actually be built. There were questions about the land swap. So at first I want to just sort of address, I'll go through in detail what we've done here. To address the question, there was a land transfer, there were some land transfers that were made that were conditions of approval of the original first phase subdivision, and there was an additional land swap with the Moody property to the east. And the area in pink here represents land that had been owned by the Moody that was transferred, the pink is land that was part of our project site that was conveyed to Moody, and the brown next to it were land of Moody that was conveyed back to the applicant. And those 2 areas are nearly identical. They're about 1/10 of an acre apart difference. So overall, in terms of the subdivision land area, there's no change. The only impact that that could have on anything related to the development densities may be the calculation of the transfer, the development transfer overlay credits, the number of units that could have a small impact on how many of those bonus units need to be paid for or don't, and we'll follow up with the staff on that. But the two areas, so the pink area that was conveyed to Moody and the brown areas that were conveyed back to KV are identical, essentially, within about a tenth of an acre. And the plan from KV's standpoint is that ultimately those two brown areas would be conveyed to the land trust as open space. And some of the question around that, one of the things that accomplishes is it consolidates all of the land that includes all of Indian Camp Brook through this project area and extending 55 feet to the east of it, all becomes encompassed in the land that's going to be owned by the land trust. So previously the lot line had kind of crossed the brook, and we had a kind of an isolated parcel on one side of the stream, and Moody had an isolated parcel on the other side of the stream. Those two things are exchanged. So now in the end, the land trust will own all of the land across this property to and across Indian Camp Brook, and that cleans that property up. The other small swap you see in the corner here, the dark blue in the corner, that location right there is based on discussions with the land trust. That's land that's been conveyed to the land trust that we're working on basically conveying back for some stormwater. So part of the brown in the corner would be traded back to the land trust in exchange for that small rectangular piece. It's a small piece of upland. It's where we're proposing some stormwater infrastructure. It could be constructed on an easement with the land trust, but we thought it'd be cleaner if ultimately the land was just conveyed. The remaining colors on here are just a couple of the other land swaps that occurred that were part of the conditions of approval for the Phase 1 subdivision, specifically the green. You may recall that some of the conditions of approval required that the applicant obtain right-of-way from our project site heading back towards the town's land along what will ultimately become the extension of White Birch Lane. So the green extension in the middle of the site here is land that KV has acquired from the Robies, the original property owners of the site. In exchange for that land, this green over in the upper left-hand corner was dedicated back to Robies. So there was a land swap that was all shown on the original subdivision plan, and all of those deeds were executed as conditions of approval of that project. The gray area above, extending from the existing White Birch Road down to where the green is where the existing White Birch Lane and the town's existing access road to its ball fields are located. So working from our project heading up north, KV was required as part of the Phase 1 subdivision to acquire the right-of-way in that green section running up across what was some of the remaining land of Robies. And then at that point, and to construct that new road to that point. At that point, the new road construction meets the existing drive. And you may recall that as part of the approval of the Phase 1 subdivision, we prepared a plan that then showed the upgrades and reconstruction of that access drive that's in the gray area extending all the way back up to White Birch Lane. Our understanding is that was on town land, or it was land that the town had rights to because of the existing access way that has existed for many years in that location. And the conditions of approval and the plans that were approved were simply to show the proposed construction of that road. So if there's a question about that land, that's land that the applicant doesn't own. It's lands that presumably the town has rights to because there's an existing access road on that. And the applicant's responsibility in the first phase of the subdivision was to provide plans to reconstruct that section. So we're happy to talk some more to the town if there's some need for the town to perfect their rights in those pieces of land. We may be able to assist with that, but our understanding is that that's either part of the existing White Birch right-of-way, it's land that the town owns, or it's land that the town has rights to cross based on the existing access road that's been there for many years to those ball fields. So So a couple of questions came up about the contract zone, and we touched on some of this during the sketch plan review on whether the current plan compared to the contract zone. So back in the fall, after our sketch plan approval in the fall of 2025, we did have correspondence and met with the staff reviewing the sketch plan that was approved by the planning board and against the concept plans that were attached and part of the contract zone. And the conclusion of that was that as long as we maintain the locations of the multifamily buildings and the single-family lots, that the contract zone didn't speak directly to a cap on the number of units. What the contract zone did was it created some allowed uses, it set some density requirements, and then allowed the standards of the underlying zones, including the urban residential extension, the transfer overlay, to flow through the project with some modifications to space and bulk. But my understanding was that the town attorney's opinion was that the contract zone wasn't specific to units, but it was specific to the location of the multifamily and the single family. And we've put the plan back and adhered to that. So like I said, compared to the original contract zone, the overall development footprint is somewhat reduced. Wetland impacts that would have been created by that plan and that number of multifamily buildings has been reduced. And the total number of multifamily bedrooms has been reduced. What has remained through that process is the open space that is required by the zoning and was reviewed as part of the Phase 1 subdivision, and the sketch plan is retained. We actually decreased the total number of single-family residential units, but increased the number of total units. But our understanding is that is allowed within the contract zone. Again, the arrangement of the same. I'll move through this and get to some of the other questions, and then I'll be quiet so people can ask questions and talk. Sorry, I'm missing my. So there were a couple questions I think that I actually addressed related to. We've addressed the land swap, the impacts on the contract zone. If there's other questions that are specific and the things that Carol came up with, we'd be happy to answer those. As you know, we do receive the same comments you receive, the peer review comments, we receive them at the same time you do. We have gone through those. I can speak to nearly any of them at this point. As far as the peer review comments from the traffic review from Wright Pierce, those are all, we've reviewed those. We don't see any substantive change coming out of addressing those, and we would plan to do that as part of the normal course of the review. Particularly the comments about detailed landscape plans, we absolutely will do that. We just have not done that at the preliminary stage. So with that, I'll pause and we'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Questions first or public hearing? Go ahead, Mr. Walsh.
I was going to say public hearing.
Public hearing, yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If there is anyone that would like to speak in favor of this project, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, if there was anyone that would like to speak against this project, I'm sorry? If you would like to speak in favor of the project, you can approach the podium. We have updated our rules, and we're really following our rules. So we have for, against, and neutral. So I just announced for. If you would like to speak. Okay. No one wants to speak for the project. If anyone would like to speak against the project, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. And finally, if anyone is neutral to the project, if anyone would like to speak about the project, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Before you begin, we dug deep into our rules, and we found out we hadn't been following them, so we updated them a few months ago. So I'm sorry that I might have caught you off guard. So it's supposed to be for, against, and neutral. So here you are. Thank you, Mrs. Roby.
My name is Susan Roby, and I live at 34 Roby Street. And what I wanted to say was about the end of White Birch Lane, where the town owns it, and it starts to be the nice road that Mr. Maeda built, the land trust now owns an acre and a half of land. It crosses the street right there at the junction, and then it has a 75-foot road or a trail along the edge of our property, along the edge of Walton's property, and enters into the conserved land. And I am only saying this because there was a comment from the Conservation Commission about whether there was a public access to the conserved land. And there is. And I don't think people are aware of it. That's what I wanted to say. That was pretty neutral, wasn't it?
No, that's perfectly neutral. Stay right there, because
I don't have to ask.
Mr. Marino may not be aware. I'm certain Mrs. Roby knows.
We are aware of
Yeah.
an access point at one point. So we want to know, are there more access points? Because people will cut through the multifamily unit parking lots in order to get to the open space. So to have only one entrance would not accomplish a great deal for much of the development. That's my only comment.
Is this a coordination effort for Mr. Riley?
It would be.
Hold on. Mr. Walsh?
I was going to ask if someone could show what Mrs. Roby is showing.
Yeah.
Speak it up, can you show it on one of your diagrams, Dan?
Yep.
Susan, how are you? Probably the best one to look at it would be here.
C101?
It may show a little bit better. The land transfer graphic that I put up before may show a little better.
That's it.
So, yes, and there's actually an additional piece of land. So what Susan's describing is we did some survey work for her, and this tract of land here, coming across here,
And you lost this.
Whoops.
I'm looking to Ben.
when it catches up, you'll see it. It's beautiful.
Do we have to?
Are you disconnected?
I don't know,
Yes, sir.
still connected.
Dan, your laptop might have disconnected. Anything now?
I'll use one of
I
these
think
other
he hung
plugs.
up on me.
I think most of us have drawings. Could you refer to the drawing number you're looking at, perhaps?
Yeah, so the best drawing to look at, I'll find it for you here. Sorry, I don't have the full set here, would be the overall subdivision plan. Let me call this open here.
Oh, probably the first page.
Do you want me to try and plug this in with the other, I can use the other plug here.
Didn't touch anything.
I don't know, it was working a minute ago. It's a new computer, I don't know what it
Ben's
was.
coming down.
Yeah,
It's either
so,
C101 or 102.
yep, I'm gonna call it up here so I can tell you, steer you to it.
We're just the cover sheet.
Right.
Yeah, it could be the cover sheet maybe, let me get that open here. Yeah, so the cover sheet will do. So if you look at, if you're coming down White Birch Lane, excuse me, from New Portland Road, and you come down to where there's a small little S-curve,
Yep.
and if you look just to the right of that, you see kind of an upside-down L track of swath of land.
All right, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, yep.
This thing here. Yeah. Oh, I see, it gets you in there, all right.
This is like being at home in HDMI 1 and
Here it comes.
HDMI 2 and
It's trying. There we
presto,
go. Hey, there we
presto.
go.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
So-
Go back to that other one that was much bigger. You could
Yeah, I'll go back to,
It's easier when we just flip the record over.
Yes, Mr. Riley, yes, you were saying.
so if I look at that land transfer plan, I think it parts to tell. So if I zoom in here, So just north of, so this is the extension of White Birch Lane coming down from, the gray is coming down from this is where, on the city's land. The green is the land that KV traded with the Robies. And subsequent to that, the Robies have conveyed this red strip of land here, coming up and across, and a strip of land here.
Yeah, there's a diagonal piece on the other side where they
I'm sorry.
plan to have their kiosk and stuff, and they plan parking in that wider section of it.
Right.
That's what I know about it.
Yep. So the land trust now owns this piece of property here.
Yeah.
Running up through, and they own a section on the other side of the road as well to get connection to the existing ball field parking lot. And so there is access from this extension, or what will be White Birch Lane. There's access here. This is deeded and controlled by the land trust at this point. So off the site at that location, there's a connection from the parking lot at the ball fields across Roby's land, or what was Roby's land is now the land trust, all the way down to the land that KV has conveyed to the land trust. So from that standpoint, there's access there, and as Susan said, the land trust has some plans for improvements there that we're not a part of. But that being said, as part of this subdivision, access to this, all of this open space that is contiguous with the property that has been conveyed to the land trust will be accessible off the right-of-way. We're certainly happy to provide access points. The applicant doesn't have any problem with, potentially using parts of the multifamily for those access points. We just need to get those located. There are some things, there's stormwater and some things at the ends there that we would have to coordinate. And I would expect that through the project, whether it's part of this amended subdivision approval or an approval of one of the future phases, I would expect some more land may be dedicated to the land trust to increase the size of that holdings. That really just hasn't been done yet until we get through some of the state permitting to make sure we don't need that land for something, whether it's conservation for mitigation purposes or other reasons. But I think once that's fleshed out, that we'll be able to there may be some other conveyances that become possible.
And the only other thing I wanted to say is that the land trust applied for and got the very first, I don't know what they called it, grant from the state to make that conservation land a reality. And I think it was $267,000. So it's going to happen fast, and people hopefully will enjoy it. Thank you. Was that you?
Thank you, Mrs. Roby. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone else that would like to speak to this project on a neutral basis, neither for or against? Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising, and I will close the public hearing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Riley.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
I just want to follow up to this, Mrs. Roby's points and to Dan's follow-up on that. Would it be possible to add the that Mrs. Roby was speaking to onto any of into your package, whether it's in the open space plan or somewhere, because that was important and helpful.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think what I also, just to wrap up on that point, what I heard you saying is that public access through the parking lots of multifamily in Phase 1M may be possible to the open space?
Yep. Yep.
Just my suggestion is label the parking for the public. Signage.
Members of the board. Mr. Walsh,
Okay.
you're smiling.
Yeah, all right. Lot to digest.
Sure.
Number one, it would have been helpful to have your color diagrams. They weren't part of our package. I don't know if you knew that. but especially the phasing. I really like seeing that. I mean, you have great graphics, we just didn't get copies in the past we have. So, I don't know. If that was an oversight or just an oops, so, but it'll be helpful in the future. Okay,
These.
yes, or have to share. Okay, well, thank you for the overview of the project. Again, a lot to digest. I'm going down, I do have a number of things I wanted to follow up on. Phasing permits, I think you've spoken to. I was listening to you talking about the traffic, and I understand the 7-year thing, and that was helpful to understand a logical bite on the traffic. But as you were showing the diagrams and thinking of the phasing and thinking of the permits, okay, if you get down into the final phases and you're out a number of years, 7+ years into your second 7-year period, do you see that? I guess what I'm thinking is you get down to final phase and the traffic movement plan or process at that point says, well, you got to upgrade something that you've already completed. Do you see that happening?
It happens sometimes. Generally speaking, that has occurred at times where a project, say, maybe needs to create a turn lane at some off-site location, and then at some point in the future, a signal needs to go in.
Yeah.
And so usually that kind of gets fleshed out in the scoping meeting that occurs. So when we submit traffic movement permits, it's a 7-part application. You submit the first 6 parts to the department, and then they schedule a scoping meeting with us, the applicant, DOT, and the town to meet, to review that piece of it, and then establish what the study area is based on traffic patterns and existing development. Generally speaking, those kinds of circumstances get brought to light in that, but there is a risk to that. There is a chance that can happen. It doesn't happen often. We try to anticipate it, understanding and putting out there that these future phases are coming, but that's a risk that a developer has to take. And part of the reason they take that risk is that DOT also, there's other reasons for that, is that DOT used to allow you to, if you were to permit all of the traffic for a project and you needed certain off-site improvements, and those would only get triggered as phases came online, they used to allow you to do that, and then you could build those improvements over time when you needed to. And that way, say, if a phase of the project wasn't constructed, you don't have to build the improvements for that phase. They've stopped doing that. And so now applicants are required to build all of the off-site improvements for whatever they submit to. So if an applicant went in and has a couple phases of development that might be 10 or 15, whatever years out, if we permit all of that now, they have to do all of the off-site improvements for that build-out upfront in the beginning, whether that development and traffic ever actually materializes or not. And there's restrictions on, they could also, you could do all that, and then 7 years from now, you'd have to restudy it anyway and then kind of be in the same boat. And so that's sort of the reason for why that happens. But yes, there are sometimes circumstances when an improvement gets done and then 10 years later it gets rebuilt, but it's usually identified, or it's usually a known condition that you can kind of plan for to make sure you leave room for signals if they were to arrive or something.
That's a very helpful explanation. Thank you. So let's just talk specifics, because where I was thinking about was White Birch Lane, and we've heard a lot from the residents of White Birch Lane. Disruptive to them. It's changing the entire nature of that street. We all know that, and I would hope that any improvements that need to be made, if there was, we've already talked about the sidewalks along there. God forbid if it had to be any widening of that street for any reason. I hope all of that is being taken care of at this stage, so that we wouldn't be looking at 7+ years down the road having to disrupt the residents of that street again, more so than they have already been disrupted. And the same goes for Roby Street and on the other connectors. And so, and with that, can you briefly recap where you are on off-site work such as sidewalks?
Sure.
And where that's at, because I've kind of lost track of all that.
Yeah, so as part of the design of White Birch Lane, the extension, and you can look, it's not really shown here, but the extension of White Birch Lane that was part of the Phase 1 approval includes a sidewalk the full length. So that work that was approved as part of the first phase of the project will put a sidewalk through there. The scenario you're talking about, like if a future phase had some impact on White Birch, it would be unlikely that it would require any reconstruction of that section of the road. What could happen might be, if that were to come to fruition, it would be more likely to happen, say, at New Portland Road.
Yeah.
By the time you connect there, where the opposing, the other traffic in the area would necessitate some improvement. So
Such as a signal at that time.
could be, yeah, maybe if it's warranted. DOT doesn't like to put in signals if they don't meet the warrants. But I will say also that, to your point, when DOT does, when we do the scoping meeting, multimodal or traffic bicycle pedestrian improvements are all part of the DOT's review. It's part of their mandate. And so they will require at times sidewalks being constructed, within that study area that's determined, either on-site or off-site. That's all part of their purview and part of their review. So the connectivity question from the state standpoint, if we don't have it here from what you're looking for, the state will also be looking at that. As far as the connectivity question, so far, what's shown on the plan, it used to be, I think, Road A, but it's now Lockwood Drive is the new road that connects down through to the extension of Bramblewood, which connects into Roby Street. The road and connection and sidewalk, I believe, has been constructed. I know the road base has all been constructed all the way up to Roby Street. The remaining section of Bramblewood with its sidewalk will be finished this spring. So some utilities are getting started in that area over the winter. And then in the springtime, the connection here and the connection here and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of that road, Ridgeway, will all be constructed as part of this phase of construction.
How will it be, I know that was back and forth on how Ridgeway would be connected. How did that fall out? Was it, at one point it was going to be one way?
Oh, was that left above that? Sorry, that predates my my involvement here. So do you want to speak to that? I don't know what will the result there.
Vincent Maeda, I'm a partner in K&B Enterprises. That was left up to Public Works decision. We're going to build the road. Public Works was going to decide whether or not that was going to be a one-way in, a one-way out, or a two-way thing.
Okay.
We weren't going to be involved with that decision.
Thank you. Chuck, do you know anything?
Wasn't there another offsite?
Don't believe any decision's been made at this time. I will say that I think the existing Ridgeway would be the limiting factor here.
Yeah.
Because I do believe what's proposed to be constructed could be bidirectional, but existing Ridgeway will likely determine.
Very narrow.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, and what about thank you. Dan, what about sidewalks? Was there supposed to be a sidewalk down Roby?
Yes, on the screen here, I pulled up the cover sheet from the plan. As part of the first phase improvements, Bramblewood is extended to the intersection of Roby Street, and a sidewalk as part of phase 1 is being constructed up along Roby Street. That was all part of the phase 1. I don't know if that sidewalk's been built yet or not.
No.
Yeah, that hasn't been yet, but the utilities have been run up there, but it'll be built this spring, presumably with the rest of the road.
Okay. All right, you folks mind if I keep going?
No, Mr. Walsh, you have the floor.
Thank you. All right. You've talked about the concept plan versus the contract zone. I personally found the attorney's summary of that hard to understand, a little wishy-washy, but it sounded like you were still in sync. But then it came down to the discussion, the facts on the number of bedrooms. I was wondering, in your analysis, from the original proposal, where you had a mixture of residential and multifamily, and then you changed it to a certain number of units with a certain mix of 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, to your current, which is studios and 1 bedrooms, but more units. Do you have anything that shows number of bedrooms original versus number of bedrooms current?
I don't have it with me. I don't have it with me. Yeah.
Yeah, could you include it in future?
Right.
It's just more, just trying to go back to, and, obviously, one of the things is there's a positive financial impact to the town in terms of impact fees. Do you intend to ask for a reduction in impact fees or some type of discount as part of this project?
I don't think we, I don't know that we can. The contract.
I think I've heard 'em.
The contract zone is fairly explicit on some of those impact fees.
Okay.
Some of them are spelled out in the contract
Yes,
zone.
they are.
And others apply as they do, but.
All right. So, you're aware that the change you're doing is providing a positive impact, financial impact to the town, and you're ready to move ahead with that. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
I'm very supportive. Okay. Let's see. On your multifamily buildings, how many stories? I think I've asked this question before.
The multifamily buildings are 4 and 5 story.
4 to 5?
Yep. So up in the screen here, the phase 1 multifamily, these 3 buildings are all 5 story. The 2 phase 2 multifamilies are 4 story. And then all the remaining phase 3 and phase 4 are 5 story.
Okay. And do you have any artist renderings of those yet?
No, the plans haven't been fully developed yet.
Yeah, so you'll have those at final? Okay. There was discussion early on about possibly some of it being used as student housing or some arrangement with USM. Is that still a current thinking?
I don't know if that's gone on. That was brought up by the economic development group here at town, and they were trying to facilitate some meetings with the school to see if there was an arrangement to be made. I don't know if that's progressed yet or not.
Open to it, but not, it's not.
Right.
Okay.
Certainly, I think the shift from studios and towards studios and 1 bedrooms is certainly more amenable to students living there, whether there's a formal agreement with the school or not. That would certainly be more applicable to students than maybe larger units might be. So.
Okay, I'm going to apologize for the next question because it's more of a concept level discussion. But when I pull open the drawings this time, all of a sudden something just popped at me and I got to ask the question. And the town will probably chastise me for asking it.
Which sheet, please?
Oh, just overall. When I look at the buildings, the multifamily units, and I guess it's in phase 1 and in phase 2, the buildings face White Birch Lane. And I think that's required, that the building faces it, not the parking?
It's required to face the main street.
Yeah.
That's in the multifamily
But,
ordinance.
all right, I'm going to put a concept hat on for a moment. Now we have parking lots facing residential homes. Which is the lesser of 2 evils? Is it having a parking lot in your backyard or looking at a building? I'm not sure I know the answer, but my first, I started thinking maybe looking at a building is better for a resident, single-family home than listening to a parking lot, car starting, snow clearing. And again, this is more of a concept level question, but I felt I'd better at least ask it.
Could there be tweaks? Probably.
I know, you're in the business, what have you found that people prefer?
Let's just say that's another good question. I agree with you. However, there's rules and we try to follow the rules and try to be as simple as possible and not try to change things that quite frankly we don't have any control over. Yeah, that's probably the short answer. But, we've had some discussion with the town about eliminating 1 or both of those buildings that are there, and we were told that we couldn't do that at this time unless we changed the zone.
Yeah.
So there could be an opportunity to answer your question that maybe those 2 buildings shouldn't be there, but it's going to be determined by someone much higher level than us.
So So what I'm hearing from you is you would be open to it, but the town would have to allow it.
We attempted to eliminate those two buildings.
Okay.
In blue. They're not in blue now, but
These two buildings
You
here.
want to eliminate them or relocate them?
the two that abut the residential and put single families there. And because of the contract zone, we were told we couldn't unless we change. They didn't say we couldn't. They said we couldn't unless we changed the zone. So we're still contemplating whether or not that's something worth going back after. But to your point, we agree with you. We think that's probably wasn't the best plan to put those there to begin with the parking right up against residential. So you may see us request that, but we don't want to,
Well, sir,
reopen all the contract zoning stuff at this point.
no, I understand that.
But
No,
but depending on how quickly things in phase one multis go, we may come back and ask the board for a review of that.
Yeah, because particularly when you look at Lot 94, it's the second building down, you have a driveway that is coming out, there's two residential lots directly across from it. I would think that, and now that I looked at it, I said, wow, that's something I'd like to see us avoid. Just because it's high traffic, if you have family, kids across the street, it'd be something if that driveway could come out elsewhere or have, again, swap the building and the parking lot and you could avoid that situation. And Carol, is that something the town can we do if they wanted to? Because I know the building is supposed to be on the main drag.
We can take a look at the ordinance and what the plan, given all the wetlands and whatnot, what's available to us
Yeah.
at the moment.
We actually talked internally a while back too, and we can follow up with the town on this. One opportunity there may be to do some on-street parking on that side along the front of those buildings. That would, if parking could be on-street, similar to some other, projects you've seen recently that are large, that could reduce the amount of parking at the rear, potentially. So that's something I honestly don't know if the zoning or the standards preclude that, or whether that's something that may be in the planning board's purview that wouldn't require a revision to the contract zone that we can certainly explore. And I know just from different communities and different projects, your point is absolutely well taken, but there's certainly also a difference of opinion on that. Some people would not want a 4-story building in their backyard. They'd rather have a parking lot there. So
Fair enough.
It is kind of subjective, but on-street parking might be an option if that would reduce some of that impact. We've tried to meet the requirement, like Vinnie said, we try to meet the standards as they're written, and this is what the standard for that zone would
No, I
dictate.
understand how you got there, and my personal feeling is, given the amount of land you have here, I'd hate to see on-street parking built in.
Fair.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
There's also a ban in wintertime on on-street parking.
Are these private streets or public,
They're proposed and being constructed to be public.
Okay, and there's a ban in the winter. And so that would then, obviously, when it all comes down to it, and I know this will be part of your landscape plan, is as much buffer as you can have, and vegetative buffer between these buildings and the residential properties. So you've covered my open space questions. You said landscape, you'll have the detail on the landscape plan in the next go-round?
Yep.
So Wright Pierce was...
Yeah, we will do that as
All right.
part of final.
Okay.
I mean, we
All
can
right.
certainly, we know we have accounted for some of the space requirements for that, or especially around the parking lots, that we're, aware of all those buffer standards. And just typically, we don't do the detailed landscape plans until the plans are more finalized.
Okay, in the legal review, there was a whole bunch of stuff about the Hill Street Housing Corp. And the right-of-way question, is that resolved?
Well, it's like, that's the question that we talked about. What the phase one approval required was that the applicant obtain the right-of-way from this project to where the town's existing driveway terminates on city property. So we've done that. and it required them to upgrade that existing road on that land. Our presumption is that the town has rights for the road that exists there. And like I said, if that's the applicant's responsibility to investigate the town's rights for its existing road, we can potentially do that, but we probably want to have some discussion with the town on that, because some rights clearly exist there, and I don't know the form of them.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Frank, please.
Just following up on the parking in people's backyards. An unsavory option for you would be to just maybe eliminate a lot that is very, very close to a parking lot.
Anyone else? There's a lot of information here. I mean, that we had a chance to go through and review, and
There was a question about, Carol, you mentioned it, and it was in the Wright Pierce review, that some of the lots weren't proportioned properly.
Yeah. Yes, there's 2 lots that we need to adjust the frontage by 6 inches to get to 1.4 times the width.
Okay.
When like Vinnie alluded to, when we were here for sketch plan, we had presented a plan for the multifamily in phase 2 to actually be a group of single-family lots. But the result was we would have to go back to the contract zone. And so when we switched it back, we came up 2 lots short, and it was 6 inches on 2 lots. So we'll take care of that.
Shame on you. Yeah.
well, while we're waiting for other comments, drawings are extraordinarily well done, and my compliments to all of the designers, whether they're off 6 inches or not in some places. It's a tremendous amount of work. My former career, civil engineering drawings aside, fantastic work. My compliments for that.
Good.
Members of the board. Mr. Frank, please.
The curiosity more than anything else, but the homes and lots on Lockwood Drive, on this plan, you haven't numbered them. I know there's houses already underway. Which lots are they on right now?
I don't know if they're these at this end of the site.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which ones there were. There are about 12 under construction now, roughly 10.
Are they would they be the ones closest to the parking lot for lot 92? Yeah, okay. All right, so that's a done deal. You can't unbuild on that lot, not numbered lot there, okay. I was just following up on my previous thought that you could eliminate a lot, but you can't. Okay.
Mr. Valentine, could you go back up, please, and tell us which houses are built on the adjacent lots? Because we see all the lot numbers for Road D, but
This lot,
is that opposite lot 40?
5.
that is lot 44 or 43?
Okay, adjacent, okay.
44, this is 43, and then there is a couple up here too. Can you scroll?
That's,
It's like 36 and 5. There's 2 more, like, I can't remember if it's this, I think it's these 2
That-
lots.
okay, on that neck of the woods. Okay, thank you. For whatever it's worth, I think it's a great idea that Ridgeway Ave has continued that name. So many streets in Gorham, my father, God bless him, was angry when he would come up to one street and the name would change. So I'm very happy. And I was surprised to see Bramblewood Ave was being continued all the way up as well. So I think it's a win-win. Gentlemen,
I think that was really the extent of what I was. As usual, Mr. Walsh.
Yeah. Covered a lot.
Covers much. That's it.
I
We got-
guess I got a question of the staff.
please.
So, I mean, this is one, this is a huge piece of meat. A lot of yellow in there, but I heard it's a lot of process going on. You comfortable with it?
There is a lot of process going on and a lot of things to add to the plan, a lot of conversations yet to be had, and the traffic is one of the largest ones. Plan details on the 6 inches are easy to resolve. So the legal questions need some research. A little bit of calculation, recalculation based on the land swaps would be helpful, and I know you said it amounts to almost nothing in terms of acreage.
Yeah, it's a
swaps.
15/100ths of an acre difference on 131 acre property. And so overall, it doesn't make any difference. Like I said, the only thing that could come into play is how much development transfer overlay fees there are, because, as I said, they're taking advantage of that district. And there's two calculations, the underlying zoning and what the transfer overlay. It won't make any difference to the transfer overlay calculation. It could make a little bit of difference, maybe on the underlying zone, but we'll do that calculation. But I don't see it being substantive other than what the fees might be. What's that? Yeah, it's a very small change. It's not. It's very insignificant.
And there is a bit of language in the legal review that is purposely vague. So we need to have a conversation with the applicant, staff, and the applicants need to chat about one little element, and it has to do with the contract zone. So should we debate that right now? I don't think that's maybe appropriate, so.
Well, we always have, I think we've batted this question back and forth, is what is the threshold for preliminary approval? And I think it's been, I know I've heard you say 80, I've heard someone say 80%, but I think we've lowered that bar or stretched the gray zone. And I think some of it's come back to the needs of the applicant. If they do not get preliminary approval at this stage, does that hinder the process for all the other balls you have in the air? Versus if we were to table,
Well, and their question about can we change where the buildings and the parking lots are? That's going to change their DEP question maybe a little bit as well. It might change the permitting aspect. And I'd like to have a chance to discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, we typically seek preliminary approval before we submit our state applications. The traffic is not so much, because that's really just based on unit counts that you want to get permitted, and the DOT doesn't care much where they're located or how it's arranged. They just want to know what the traffic generation is. The preliminary approval does matter for DEP applications. So if there's things we can address, we'll get them addressed. From what I read in the peer review comments, like I said, most of those comments I think actually apply to a final plan. Certainly landscape details, final details on stormwater, all the comments from the traffic engineer are all being addressed as part of the DOT permitting. So I didn't see anything in there that gave me concern about, overall scope of the project, locations, all of that. So, certainly the board can make the decisions they make, but I didn't see anything in those comments that was going to change in, substantively what we're proposing.
Okay. I have a question. Please don't take this the wrong way. Page 35 of 42. The applicant has not submitted information showing financial capacity. And I know in the past we've received a letter of credit or a bank statement or something like that. That's only one item, and I don't mean to bring that one up. It's a glaring thing for me. We have many pages of yellow, and in the past, we've always heard from the planning department that is contingent upon one of the first or second items as a condition of approval. And we've always got the vote of confidence that you will give it its due diligence, because I understand that the client also has the same copy of yellow.
Yes.
So it's no surprise. I'm happy to move forward with this, putting the burden on the planning department. But I certainly want to hear from other people what your comfort level is. I believe we have two motions here. One is for preliminary subdivision approval, and there's a separate one for site plan approval.
Yeah, but, well.
Go ahead, Mr. Walsh,
I
please.
think the question that we kind of started, at least I've asked, and I think you have an opinion on, is, whether that parking lot moves and that changes the building configuration. I think that's a question that has to be answered before preliminary, does it not?
It should be, because it could change.
Yeah, could change a lot.
It could. We're in a bit of a rock and a hard place there, though, because this is what the zoning requires us to do.
Understood, but if you want to have that discussion, and they're open to that discussion, would you want to seek preliminary approval?
Yeah, because I think, like, so for that example, a preliminary approval for the plan as it's designed now would allow us to submit our DEP applications, move through the stormwater calculations, and if that got reversed in a final plan, that probably doesn't impact the approvals that we would have in place, but it does give us some confidence that we agree that there will be a multifamily building there, that it will have a parking lot associated with, and if it moves one way or the other, we can do that. I think we're, so far, I won't speak for the applicant, but my impression is that we don't want to go down the road of having to amend the contract zone, because that would be a major hurdle to overcome.
So could I ask a question?
You just did.
My question is, if you submit to the DEP, your application, say this is it, and it goes to them, and there's 3 buildings and a parking lot that are in totally different places, do you have to amend that permit application to the DEP?
You can submit that, but generally speaking, if that doesn't change their review criteria, like the sizing and the location of your stormwater, and it doesn't create additional wetland impacts, they generally do that as like a minor modification. So typically in that situation, we would be permitted for what it was. If a building shifted a little bit, they generally don't require a modification for that kind of thing, but they do require a modification when it affects some review criteria of those, and it's generally either stormwater or wetland impacts.
All right, that does matter. A little bit.
How does this sound, perhaps? If one of these motions state, perhaps, based on findings of fact, conditions of approval as written by the town planner and amended by the planning board, with the condition that this does not change? In other words, they could proceed, if they earn approval, if they earn a respect and approval tonight, and they just say, let's go forward, then it's a done deal.
Here's my question. If I go back and I read the ordinance standard, because I don't have it memorized, God forbid, I go back and I go, oh, yes, you can move the parking lot and the building so that it's away from the single-family homes. Would you want them to?
Me personally, it makes absolutely no difference to me. Me personally.
Just
But
asking the question to mull over.
gentlemen, I mean,
Doesn't really make a big difference, but we are
You're-
taking justification. I'm not gonna move there, so why do I care?
I'm the one who brought it up, but I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I think it's something I'd like to hear from people who are in that business and, you know, which we have.
Yep.
To some extent.
Yeah, I can
If I could add one thing too, that may
Market rules.
help this conversation. We haven't got the details on landscaping and buffering. And one of the requirements, excuse me, in the standard for multifamily housing is on page 38.6, and we haven't, the applicants proposed to respond to how they're going to meet these requirements for final approval. Number 6 is a buffer shall be established between multifamily housing and any abutting single-family or two-family dwellings. So that would include the lot, meaning, and the parking lot for it. So we haven't seen those those details yet, and how well they're able to provide that buffer may factor into whether or not they would or not want to move it, I guess. So something to, there's going to be more information that will bear on this question. So wanted to throw that out there for the board.
Mr. Ballantyne, you jumped up.
I was just, Kendrick Ballantyne, KV Enterprises. I was just to address your specific, so I think there's two different trains of thought there, right? I think there's people that are buying the lot that I pointed out, right? That their current opinion today is that they were saying, well, we hope it's a few years before you build this building because we don't want a big building in our backyard. But those are things that we've disclosed and said that at some point in time that they buy it anyway, right? But like that specific person would prefer a parking lot over a building, right? And a buffer in between a parking lot. Now, the person that moves next door might want a building versus a parking lot. So I think the market will dictate, right? If we build it this way, the market will dictate, someone comes in and they'll buy one down the road instead of buy one at where, how this is constructed, and somebody else that doesn't have that preference, right, it doesn't bother them one way or the other, they'll buy the lot that's up against the parking lot. Does that, like the market will kind of dictate who has interest in being there and who doesn't have interest in being there, and if we flipped it one way versus the other, it would be the same thing. The market would dictate, they don't mind a building there, but does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and you're exactly right, and I agree with you. I raised the question conceptually.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm not going to live there, so I'm not,
Yes,
I'm not going to have a strong opinion in that respect. I would ask, from a safety standpoint, if they could look at the driveway that comes out onto Ridgeway and facing a single-family home, if that driveway at all could be altered so it minimizes the direct impact across the street. And I just hate to see a kid out on a bicycle in a driveway or a ball going across the street, where you have a bigger driveway with many cars in and out. That's all. And if that could be curved, so it looks like you have a wetland. What is the darker green area?
Yeah, it's wetland.
Yeah, with rats. Yeah, because I think you have a dumpster enclosure there.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the ideal place if you could sneak the driveway out that way.
Yeah, we can look at that. I mean, we may be able to make a change in configuration. We'll need an access one or the other. It's desirable to have it at both ends, but we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
That is also one of the multifamily standards they'll have to comply with.
Yeah.
It says, number 8, driveways shall be designed to effectively and safely handle the anticipated traffic volumes proposed for the development, both on and off site.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, please, Mr. Frank.
Good. Really for staff, on page 24, I had occasion to especially highlight one of the yellow things right in the middle, because you've got it in bold and underlined, that the subdivision does not conform to the comprehensive plan and with all the pertinence, blah, 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 blah. Why is that specially emphasized like that?
That's because of the 6-inch discrepancy.
Right above it.
It's the lot width ratio discrepancy.
That rated bold and underscoring?
Well, I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay.
We're spinning our wheels. Gentlemen, anything? Looking to my right? Mr. Norton, anything? Planning? No? We're good? Okay, on page 42, we have a couple of motions, please.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to go ahead and read this until we've got a better sense of where we want to go, but I'm open to preliminary. There's a lot of work to be done on both sides, but I think it's been well-defined. We have to come back for a final, like it is, and at that point, we will cross the Ts and dot the Is and all that good stuff, but it looks like a lot of work's gone on, a lot more to be done. I think that's recognized. If staff is comfortable, I'm comfortable with it.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Yes, starting with Mrs. Roby and her family and the whole negotiation and how we've gotten here. Some of us have sat here for a few years and watched this thing take shape and fruition and site walks, and they're very responsive to our comments. Planning Department has kept them in line as best you can. I'm happy for them that I think this thing can move forward. But someone needs to make a motion. Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant subdivision approval for Roby Heights subdivision located on map 25, lot 8, map 24, lot 20, map 27, lot 20, and map 24, lot 19 in urban residential and urban residential expansion zoning districts based on findings and facts of conditions of approval as written by the town planner. And I don't believe at this point we have amended a thing.
I do not.
All right, so period.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second? Mr. Crisafulli, thank you. Everyone understand this is a preliminary subdivision approval?
That's what I thought we said. Did you use the word preliminary?
Yes.
He did not.
Oh, I did not.
You said move to grant subdivision approval.
That's what I heard
Oh,
too.
move to grant preliminary subdivision
Yes,
approval.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frank, for, I thought my hearing was going as well.
All right.
What?
We all set? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. And we also have a second motion. We deem it's appropriate. Mr. Walsh, you're doing a good job reading
So far.
so far.
I closed the page.
I'm sorry, page 42.
Well, I closed it. And for site plan approval, so we have to do this one as well? They go
In
together?
this case, I would add a condition that they come back for a final review of their site plan.
Okay, but you would give site plan approval or you would postpone? You got me confused.
Well, the interesting thing about site plan is it doesn't have a preliminary and a final.
Oh, it's just,
Once you grant site plan, it's approved.
Okay.
So if they haven't done all the things, either that or you say you need to comply with all of the staff comments that are pending. It's a little trickier. That's why I separated them. Because it's everything at once, so the multifamilies have some different standards under site plan. It's a little different.
We have approval for all the preliminary subdivision approval. There'll be some more coordination and more meetings with staff and the client. As far as site plan approval, I don't believe that's going to stop them from proceeding, but a second group over here can be designing and adjust this final site plan. Is it appropriate perhaps to say, don't hesitate, I mean, that,
Further reviews by the planning board?
you understand where I'm coming from. We don't want to give you site plan approval, and then if something's going to change,
Yeah,
we're in jeopardy.
Yeah, we could do an amendment at that point, if anything changes, or, you know, I guess I didn't recognize the nuance between the two, but,
Well, there is one in the ordinance, right? So full site plan approval, they'd have designed already the buildings, the landscaping, the lighting, everything would be in the plan.
Okay.
So we have this overarching condition of approval that says you need to adhere to all the staff and peer review comments. So they would be ongoing. You know, they're going to submit everything anyway. We know they are.
Sure.
So yes, I mean, it could be an amendment.
I think you've laid out a clear path for us. So, Mr. Frank, please.
Carol's writing us, I want to ask her. If we vote to postpone the site plan approval, would that impede anything that they want to do based on the approval of the subdivision?
This is my question for Mr. Riley. What does that do to the DEP application?
well, I guess, like I said, if, you know, the structure of what we're proposing is in the application, the number of buildings, the number of units, the layout of the parking, the location of the parking. Well, certainly Carol's correct that, you know, we didn't submit all the final building plans, you know, detailed landscaping plans. I think it would be helpful if we had that approval, but also understanding that if through the process and as we complete the final subdivision application, if the staff determines that, hey, this now requires an amendment or this is, you know, needs to be revised, we can certainly come back to you for, you know, review of that as it proceeds. We have to come back for final subdivision, so, you know, everything will be further developed at that point too. So, you know, we can handle it as an approval with conditions, and if nothing changed and the staff was absolutely happy with everything we submitted without comment, you wouldn't have to do a thing. And if they aren't, then we would come back as an amendment.
Gentlemen?
Let me ask my question a little different way, Dan. If we postpone site plan approval tonight, would you guys walk out here saying that, oh, because we didn't get site plan approval, we cannot do this thing that you were planning to start on tomorrow?
I think, would we not do it? We would do it. Is there some risk to the, you know, the developer? Like I said, if there's something substantive from what you've seen that could like really change what we're doing on those multifamily lots, then we would want to know that. If what comes out of the final review or amended review doesn't substantively change that to the point where we'd have to redesign a stormwater basin, then I wouldn't be so concerned about it. So,
If I heard planning correctly, if we give them marching orders to go forward, and planning department all of a sudden says, hey, this has got to go back before the planning board,
then we come back.
that,
Well, I'm double checking our conditions of approval, so it could work because we've split this up. We've got conditions of approval in the subdivision section, and we've got conditions in the site plan section. We've split it up on purpose. So we've got the blanket statement that any staff and peer review comments shall be addressed prior to you signing the plans. So they're not going to be able to go forward with anything until they submit the landscaping, the building architecture, the lighting plan, everything that goes along with the site plan. So yes, in fact, they could submit next time, but it would be an amendment.
make sense?
That helps, yes.
Yeah.
Although we're going to get a legal opinion, because you might not need an amendment to a plan you never record.
Could be.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Tree falls in the
The
woods.
conundrums.
yeah,
weren't confused.
Conundrums,
If you
yes.
weren't confused, just stick around.
yeah.
There you go.
Well, thank you sincerely for your input. Gentlemen,
So how has the motion been edited, or has it?
It has not been, as is.
As is can work. Here we go. All right.
Mr. Walsh.
See if I read the right one this time. Move to grant site plan approval for Roby Heights subdivision located on map 25, lot 8, map 24, lot 20, map 27, lot 20, and map 24, lot 19 in urban residential and urban residential expansion zoning districts based on findings of facts and conditions of approval as written by the town planner, period.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second, please?
I shall second this
Mr.
one.
Frank, thank you. I think everyone understands. If there's anything, they're going to come back, maybe? Maybe? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Good job. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no problem.
Okay. We okay? Do we need to take 5 minutes?
No, we're on a roll.
We're on a roll. Okay. Now I can find,
Much thinner. It's easy.
come along, ladies and gentlemen. Item 2, a public hearing, Land Use and Development Code Amendment, curb cuts for accessory dwelling units. A proposed amendment to the Land Use and Development Code to allow additional driveway curb cuts to access accessory dwelling units on low-traffic roads if certain conditions are met. I look to planning to introduce this, please.
Mr. Chair, this is recommended from the town council to change the town's standards for driveways, objective being to provide some flexibility for accessory dwelling units if certain standards are met. The planning board had discussed this item on its meeting, or at its meeting on January 5th, and decided to send it to the next available board meeting for public hearing. This would add letters F through K to the existing Chapter 300, Part 2 of the General Standards of Performance.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If there is anyone who would like to speak in favor of this item, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone that would like to speak against this item, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. And finally, if there is anyone that is neutral to this project or this item, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising. I will close. I'm sorry, Mrs. Roby, you should have just, I'm sorry.
She is our.
Take your time, take your time. We're here till 10.
Our stalwart neutral person.
Well, let's see. I read that today, and I found it somewhat contradictory. At first, it says the lot that has to be 100 feet wide. Before that, it says it can't be done, a second driveway, unless there's 150 feet. So I would really like to understand what you have written, and I'd also like to know how wide the driveway is. Unless I read it wrong, which is possible, since I'm getting very old.
Do you have a copy in front of you? Maybe you
I
could
don't
just.
have a copy in front of me.
I can,
I'll get it.
no, here we go. Here we go.
Frontage lots that
All
are
right.
less than 100 feet, right?
The second curb cut shall not be allowed with lots less than 150% of the required street frontage for its associated zone. Second curb cut shall not be allowed on lots with less than 100 feet of street frontage. I don't think those are consistent.
So
Maybe
that,
I'm wrong.
There are some frontages that are less than, or some required frontages in some zones that are less than 100 feet. Am I correct? So there was a possibility that a lot could have 150% of the required frontage in that zone, but still be less than 100 feet of frontage. So we wanted to eliminate the possibility that somebody with frontage less than 100 feet, who did satisfy the 150% requirement, but still had a less than 100 feet of road frontage, we wanted to limit them to not being able to do a second curb cut.
So it would have to be like 60 feet or 65 or something?
Well, no, your lot would have to, at minimum, have over 100 feet of frontage and still satisfy the 150% of the required frontage of that zone. So say your required frontage for your zone was 50 feet. You had to have 50 feet of frontage for a lot.
Yeah,
150% of 50 feet would be 75 feet.
right.
Which is less than 100. You
Okay.
wouldn't qualify for this.
and we actually have zones there it's 50 feet or
Believe we
less?
have zones that are, maybe 75 feet might be the lowest zone. I can't remember.
I
I
think,
think 75 is, but I think we have,
okay.
I thought in the village,
the development transfer allows for less than
yeah, there was some reason that we added that caveat.
Okay, I thought it was, I looked at it and I couldn't quite get it.
Yeah, it's 150%, not 150 feet.
Sorry.
No, you're right.
But what is the required width of the driveway? You've talked about the entrance.
I'd have to look. I don't believe we have a driveway width standard. I think there's a generally accepted width of a driveway. I think it's 12 feet. But, so it would be your standard driveway, the second driveway.
Okay. Do you think that's commonly going to happen?
I do not know. This was forwarded on to us from the town council to be a little bit more flexible in the ability to add second curb cuts. Now, we kind of approached this from the standpoint of we didn't want to give a blanket ability to add in a second curb cut on your road frontage, thus creating that effect with, say, sidewalks or closed drainage where you have this, continuous
Okay.
cut in the consistent curb. That being said, that's why we came up with these list of requirements to be able to add a second curb cut.
So, okay. And the issue on B is that those are busier streets, so they have to have a driveway that's long enough that they can turn around in?
I believe so, but B is actually currently in the standard. That's not an addition or a change.
Okay.
Letters F through K are the changes proposed.
Okay, all right. I got confused by the 150 and the 100, because I didn't realize there were any that could violate that. All right, thank you. Whose is this? Yours. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roby, for paying attention. We appreciate it. And that was for, against, or neutral?
neutral.
That was for neutral.
That was for neutral.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? All right, I'll close the public hearing now. Thank you. Members of the board, straightforward?
Straightforward.
Thanks to Mrs. Roby, because she was able to ask the questions, and we didn't get embarrassed to ask, and Mr. Norton was able to answer them. So thank you all. Pretty straightforward. Yep. I think.
Mrs. Roby, offered a very valuable
Yep.
clarification.
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Mr. Walsh.
move to send the proposed amendment to the town council with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second? Mr. Delaney, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thanks to Mr. Norton for helping to put this thing together, as well as the planning department. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Is there any other business to come before us? Any other business? Thanks to Ben Dyke, thanks to the planning department, Mr. Norton. Thanks for the members in the audience that stayed the entire evening. Mr. Walsh?
We had this.
There is, I think it's just an information piece.
Yeah, all right.
Nothing for us to.
Receive that correspondence by email. It
Okay.
doesn't, it's not associated with any of your applications
Correct,
this
correct.
evening. It's just to make you aware of it. When something in this corridor comes back to you, we will give it to you again.
Sure, sure.
Is there action by any other town department with regards to this letter?
No, other than to say thank you, we will pass it on to the planning board. But when it's not necessarily associated with anything specific, it's difficult for you all to do anything. That doesn't, I mean, it came to more than just me. So other staff are aware of this corridor and this concern.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Tonight, it's called noise.
Is there one last motion, please?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Delaney, any opposed? All those in favor? Thank you. Have a good evening. Stay warm.
Can I vote neutral on it?